Hey, this is Neil's on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. And buy yourself some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium because there's nothing better in the world to do than to have some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium. Having said that, let's get into a couple of videos. Let's see, which one are we going to do first? Let's see, share screen. Here we go. Start off with one of my favorites. Ball lightning, or anything about lightning pretty much. Ball lightning, square lightning, mathematical lightning, all things lightning.
Can scientists explain ball lightning? Have you ever heard of ball lightning? This strange phenomenon has puzzled scientists for years. So, can scientists explain ball lightning? The short answer is that they have not reached a definitive explanation, but they have some intriguing theories. Ball lightning is often seen as glowing, spherical objects that appear during thunderstorms, usually after a lightning strike. These glowing orbs can last from a few seconds to several minutes. They can move slowly, hover in place, or even disappear with a bang. At its core, ball lightning is believed to be a form of plasma. Plasma is a hot, ionized gas made up of charged particles. One popular theory is the electrochemical model. In this model, ball lightning consists of an air plasma surrounded by chemically active layers. When lightning strikes, nitrogen oxidation creates ions that interact with water vapor. This interaction produces aerosols that help contain the plasma, giving it a unique surface tension. This delicate balance might explain why ball lightning is so rare and can sometimes squeeze through small spaces like a liquid. Another theory treats ball lightning as a plasma bubble or plasmoid. This idea suggests that complex interactions of electromagnetic fields and plasma oscillations create these glowing spheres. Observations have shown that the light emitted by ball lightning can vary in intensity. Scientists have found atoms like silicon, calcium, and iron in the spectra of ball lightning. This suggests that lightning vaporizes ground materials, which then become part of the glowing plasma ball. In laboratory settings, researchers have successfully created plasma spheres that resemble ball lightning, often above water surfaces. These experiments support the idea that plasmachemical processes sustain these glowing balls. Some experiments use electrical discharges to generate plasmoids, showing that ball lightning-like objects can form under controlled conditions. However, replicating all the natural behaviors of ball lightning remains a challenge. Practical experiments have also tested how different materials respond when struck by lightning. For instance, silicon wafers, salt water, and wet metals have produced glowing effects similar to ball lightning. This indicates that the interaction of lightning with certain substances on the ground might be key to forming these luminous spheres. Despite these advancements, no single theory fully explains all the features of ball lightning. Its varied colors, sizes, movements, and ability to sometimes pass through walls remains partly mysterious. This invites further quirky experiments and unusual observations that challenge our understanding of atmospheric electricity. From the perspective of weird science, ball lightning is a perfect example of nature's oddities. It combines plasma physics, chemistry, and electromagnetic phenomena in ways that are not easy to explain. Scientists continue to test wild hypotheses and create unusual laboratory setups to capture this fleeting, glowing enigma. So, while we may not have a complete answer yet, the quest to understand ball lightning is far from over.
Well, that was very interesting. What they didn't add is that ball lightning has a lot of plasma, and it's mostly due to that plasma that it exists in the form of a ball lightning. So what's happening most likely is there's not enough positive plasma energy drawn from the Earth in the areas, or there's an enormously large amount of positive plasma energy releasing from the Earth in small amounts in lots of areas, which would cause the plasma ball to roll and continuously get charged with positive ions, positive plasma ions from the Earth coming up is an explanation as well. What's up, Mike? But that's another theory they didn't talk about when it comes to the possibilities of ball lightning. So let's go to shipbuilding. Since my boy Mike is here, we're going to go to shipbuilding. This is obviously Fox Business. South Korea to unveil $150 billion in investments in shipbuilding under the Trump trade deal.
This hour, President Trump will meet with South Korea's president as the White House says the tariff strategy is paying off. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Brenberg, along with my co-hosts Adam Johnson, Jonathan Hoenig, Madison Allworth, and with us for the hour, Strategic Wealth Partners CEO Mark Tepper. Welcome, one and all.
Thank you.
Well, South Korea's president hoping to solidify a trade deal with Trump after the two agreed to a 15% tariff on imports last month. Seoul promising to spend $150 billion to help revive American shipbuilding, which has fallen behind China. And with billions in tariff revenue flooding in, the White House says it's all going according to plan.
By the way, when we were at the plunge, the drop, when Donald Trump first introduced the tariffs this term, and the markets rebounded, and it's going to be a rocket ship because we're going to have price stability and economic growth from the various aspects of Trump policy. It's the deregulation, the tax cuts, the strategic energy dominance, and guess what? Fair trade, which is getting us tariffs. They're going to pay down our debt, pay down our debt, pay down our debt, and pay for the big, beautiful tax bill.
That was 3 pay down our debts, Adam Johnson. So I don't know if that's true. Peter Navarro, very rosy about the situation. Are you with him on this?
Well, I actually don't think that's the headline, to be honest with you, Brian.
Okay.
The headline, yes, of course, tariffs are going to be 15% with South Korea, not 25%. And yes, ... as Mr. Navarro just explained, it's going to pay down our debt. Okay, fine, I get it. I think the real headline is that the South Koreans are investing $150 million into our ability to build ships here in the U.S. And that is just yet another example of what I think the Trump administration has really been trying to do since taking office, and that is to promote America as the place to do business, the place to conduct your business, and the place to ultimately prosper. $15 trillion worth of foreign direct investment, FDI, as economists like you like to say, right? 15 trillion, that's never happened before. That's 4.5 times as much money as was put into the stimulus programs during COVID. And that is all now effectively a stimulus program happening in the U.S. So for me.
Also, if I'm not too far off, $15 trillion worth of new investment into our country would increase our GDP quite significantly, which would reduce the debt load significantly, because one way to reduce the debt load is to increase the size of your economy. And it sounds like we just increased the size of our economy in 1 year. Well, it's going to happen. It's not like overnight, obviously. But in 1 year, we got commitments to about 40% the size of our debt in growth to our economy from foreign countries and businesses alone. Sounds like next year is going to be a real good year.
That's the headline. Yet another company or another country bringing money into the U.S., and I love it.
Well, and companies, okay? So we expect at this meeting that the South Korean president's going to talk about South Korean companies investing in the U.S. That's $150 billion, by the way, on the shipbuilding, which is a very big number. But as Mr. Johnson says, it's stimulus. A lot of this is of the government variety. Jonathan, do you like the way that this is folding out as a guy who's a particular fan of free markets?
You want to see companies trading with companies, individuals trading with individuals. And, you know, South Korea has been a tremendous bipartisan bilateral trader with us. I mean, we buy things like automotive, steel, semiconductors, washing machines from South Korea. But you know what they buy? Our aerospace. They buy our agriculture. So, you know, Peter Navarro was right. The market's come a long way since those tariffs have come down. They went from 25 to 15. I'd like to see them go from 15 to 5. Those tariffs are taxes paid by American consumers. So let's lower the taxes even more. It puts us in a much better strategic situation.
That guy is so full of shit. It doesn't add to our cost. If you want to do business with us, you pay the cost. You don't pass it on to the consumer. You don't do business with us. That's the part of tariffs they don't tell you about.
especially with China and North Korea right there in that neighborhood.
So,
Hey, what's
Madison,
up,
let's
Hunter?
put some of the politics in here a little bit too, because the South Korean president's going to show up, and we're showing you on the screen here, waiting for him. Now, the president's in another press
Yes, it
conference
is,
right
Pete.
now, which I think is going to delay. It already has delayed the arrival of the South Korean president. But this morning, before all,
Like I said, man, shipbuilding, you need to get your TWIC card because it is going to be booming next year. America has to, they're closing the loopholes to lease boats into our fleet to where they have to be made American boats in our reserve fleet or the merchant marine fleet, which means we're going to have to build boats. We also are going to have to increase the amount of aircraft carriers we build to more than one every couple of years. So shipbuilding is going to be very, very big next year. So if you want to be in the trades, I would suggest doing something that involves shipbuilding because there's going to be tons and tons of work in that alone.
this, the president found some
What's up,
time
Gerald?
to ask some questions about what's going on in South Korean politics, suggesting it could be a problem for reaching a trade deal. Just another factor in the whole negotiation. What do you make of it?
I mean, I think that is the beauty of the Trump tariff play. That it's not just about trade. There is so much more at play here. The U.S. has had troops on the ground in
Well, you gotta pay for
South
Florida's
Korea for
shipbuilding.
years now, and that's in part to protect them from North Korea. When they started that strategy, we were not as concerned about China. We knew they were an adversary. Now we look at China as one of our largest adversaries. And Trump also wants to get South Korea to take a greater stake in the U.S. troops on the ground. I think it's an increase to $10 billion investment. That's 9 times more than the current levels for South Korea in U.S. troops, because the U.S. needs to be more nimble in the area. That's a strategic position, not just for North Korea, but really for Taiwan and protecting there. So the tariff play is a larger part of this conversation. If South Korea is really our partner in the region, it needs to be both militarily as well as financially. So this meeting is going to be not just about tariffs. It's going to be about military partnerships and making that all come together, which is the beauty of the tariff talks. We're having these conversations with countries because of tariffs, but it's playing into a lot of other factors.
Every tariff conversation has another element to it. You know, if it's India, it's actually Russia because we're talking about oil. If it's South Korea, it's actually China because of the proximity there. So, you know, sometimes we do these analyses kind of in isolation, like, well, when's something going to get done with the EU or when's something going to get done with Canada? I don't think the president can look at it that way, Mark. I think these are interconnected in ways where maybe a move doesn't make sense on the surface, but if you're considering all the pieces, maybe it does make sense.
And that's an unresolved issue with South Korea, right? How can we be great trade partners together if you're outsourcing your factories to China and you're getting a more favorable tariff rate than China, yet you're doing business with China? So you got to pick your poison there. Beyond that, you know, they've committed $350 billion of investment. What are some specifics? How can we actually see that materialize? And then the next thing is defense spending. We've got 28,000 troops in South Korea. They've got to ramp that up. So when you talk about all this interconnect.
Oh, one other thing they're not telling you about. The reason why all these countries are investing so many trillions and all these companies are investing trillions into our marketplace is because we're changing up. For the past 50 so years with the fiat dollar system and the Federal Reserve, our economy was growing through government growth. We're now going to a time period of private industry growth and company growth, and not government growth. The government should actually be shrinking a little bit. That also will help the deficit in a twofold system. Next year, you'll see the numbers.
Connectedness, those are some of the outstanding items that still need to be resolved.
You know, the president had a lot to say about that $350 billion in investment. He said that was going to be directed at sort of his behest. He's going to decide where that money goes, and 90% of the profit was going to go to the U.S. Now, I don't know exactly if the South Koreans are on board with that. So it strikes me that today's conversation on the tariff piece of it, on the investment piece of it, there's still a lot to hash out, actually, given the tenor coming into this of the conversation, the president's post this morning. Are you optimistic, Jonathan?
Well, there's a lot of questions to exactly what this will look like, Brian. This isn't going to be what we've seen before of American companies investing in South Korea and South Korea companies investing in America. There's something different here. This time, government is involved. So it's a big question mark. But the dichotomy, the juxtaposition between South Korea and North Korea, one is capitalist, one is not. We know the differences in success there. So the more that we can emulate more of a capitalist South Korea, I think the better for all parties involved.
Adam, you're watching markets as you always do. Dow down today. You think about how the meeting with the president plays out in the context of where these markets are. What do you think about that?
Oh, I don't think the markets are down today just because of this particular meeting. Remember, on Friday, we got that wonderful, wonderful bit of news from Jackson Hole where Chairman Powell opened the door to rate cuts. And so market was up huge. I think Dow was up, what, Mark? 700 points on Friday?
S&P up 1.5%. Yeah.
So we're giving a little of that back today. You know, you look at the NASDAQ, and it's now up 1/3%. You know, I'm long NASDAQ stocks. I know you are too as a growth investor.
Yeah.
So I'm very comfortable with what's happening in a larger sense, whether we're talking about ongoing tariff negotiations that ultimately lead to more, or rate cuts, or the fact that we already have an economy that is producing earnings growth, double-digit earnings growth. And while there have been a couple little concerns on the employment front, 4.2% is still very low, as is 1.2, I should say, and the opposite, 1.2 jobs for every unemployed worker. I mean, that's very positive. So I'm okay with the big picture, and I'm okay with what's happening in real time.
Mark,
Enough about what he cares about. So what do you guys think about all that? What are your thoughts and opinions? Or do you have any? Or is it no big deal? I think $15 trillion being thrown into our economy, which will probably be getting here by next year, will dramatically change so much. It's going to it's going to be awesome, people. Get prepared. Whatever trade you want to get into, learn about it now. If you already have a trade, prepare to be busy, because electricians are going to be needed. Plumbers are going to be needed. Pipe fitters are going to be needed. There's going to be a whole bunch of people needed for this industry of shipbuilding that's going to be coming our way. Oh, right on. So you're watching some baseball, Mike? I'm not really a sports type guy. Doing a thorough cleaning of my prototype, if you're wondering what all that noise is. I'm having to use a wooden pipe right now. Here we go. Here's an interesting story. This might interest you, Pete. And this goes back to those nodules, and we're going to do a story on that as well. Remember me telling you about those nodules that create oxygen 2,000 meters under the Pacific Ocean? How it takes 1.8 volts to separate oxygen from hydrogen, or separate water into oxygen and hydrogen. This right here is a simple trick you can do to produce your own hydrogen using a AA, or what's that, AA battery? Look at that. You got the little wires running in there. He'll explain the whole process. So when hydrogen comes around, like if you get a hydrogen car, hydrogen fuel cell car or something like that, you can make your own hydrogen. You know these little tricks. Easy. Pretty much anyone can do this. Batteries. The battery. Through that, Pete. And there you go. Process should start. Two AA batteries, not one AA battery. Using the nitrogen to push out the water. That way you'll have a cup of nitrogen. Interesting. Very simplistic. I was about to say right then you have somewhat of a bomb. It's the same as what we do at work. We take acetylene torches and we'll take a big garbage bag and fill it up with acetylene only and let it inflate. And then we'll take and set it somewhere and throw like a hot ember at it. Man, it sounds like a bomb going off. Yeah, we don't do it much anymore. We get in trouble for that kind of stuff on the job site. So what did y'all think about that? What you think about that? Now we're going to go to another something has to do with what could trigger World War III. This could trigger World War III.
The Pacific Ocean. It follows an executive order signed by President Trump. This is way back.
It has to do with mining those nodules I was just talking about, which is why I showed you that little hydrogen video, because this is the real life deal here.
Back in April, aimed at jumpstarting the deep sea mining industry. Spearheading these efforts, the metals company. Its shares have in fact soared more than 75% since the executive order was signed.
70% of the known reserves of nickel and cobalt and manganese sit in the form of these polymetallic nodules. And they literally just sit on the seafloor like the one in my hand. So it's only a matter of time that we got around to it. And there was a false start back in the 70s when, and that's another story, right? Because the CIA were very involved in getting this whole industry started.
Really? Why so?
This is where it gets interesting. It's part of the Pacific Ocean with potentially billions of dollars worth of minerals.
I've got some ideas.
Most of that land right there, see, this is Hawaii right here. America just annexed like 500 miles of land under the water around all the Hawaiian islands. And we also annexed a lot of this land off of American coast. So where we got like 80% of this zone is on American soil, and other countries can't touch it.
Billions of dollars worth of minerals.
I've got some ideas. I got a feeling it doesn't have anything to do with mining.
It has nothing to do with mining, but it was a great cover story. The Russian submarine, which had nuclear warheads on it, the K-129, sank in the Pacific. The Americans had already implanted listening devices on the seafloor around the Pacific, so they could detect nuclear explosion and other activities. They were tracking this submarine, and all of a sudden they heard an explosion. And the Russians didn't have this same technology installed in the oceans, and so the Americans quickly clocked onto it, and the CIA got involved. But they had to have a reason to be out there, because the Russians were looking for their lost submarine, and they'd had no idea where it was. They could just say, well, it left this port this time, and we last heard at this date in this location. First, they needed to establish were the warheads in place, were they worth recovering? And when they decided, yes, they were, they said, well, actually, we can't just go and pick them up, because the Russians, it'll become an international incident. We might have World War III on our hands. And so we need to use the recovery of these polymetallic nodules as the cover story to go and recover this sunken Russian submarine. So they thought, well, they're not going to believe that we, the government, are going to be involved. So who can we get to front it?
What's up, William?
Howard Hughes, because everyone thought he's a bit crazy. He'll be up for this.
The company aims to mine minerals critical for batteries and other green technologies from the Clarion-Clipperton zone.
And so they reached out to Howard Hughes, and he said, yeah, of course, no problem.
Good evening. All across the country today, Americans were debating the value of the Glomar Explorer, the ship Howard Hughes built for the CIA, a $250 million intelligence gathering project to raise from the ocean floor a Russian submarine.
The CIA funded it all, and there were other companies involved, and the Glomar Explorer became the first deep sea exploration vessel.
What percentage of that rock has precious metals in it?
We turn 100% of this into saleable material, and it's got about 33% pure metal. I've had the first-hand experience of witnessing, in one particular region, it was in Indonesia actually, where 10 years ago there were no people focused on nickel mining. We visited there, my team and I, maybe 3 years ago. This town of 70,000 people had been built, all focused on nickel mining. And it was all 100% done by China. I mean, when China sets its mind on things, they become very, very impactful and successful. And in this case, that's what they've done.
A bold new move from the White House could reshape America's energy future and the ocean floor. President Trump signing an executive order to fast-track deep sea mining off the U.S. coast. The goal is to unlock billions of dollars worth of minerals like nickel, copper, and cobalt.
This is something actually that's never happened before in the U.S., this large-scale deep sea mining. And President Trump is aiming to jumpstart the process of making this happen.
This industry almost went that way as well.
Yeah.
And it was only the election of President Trump that provided a pathway to us rescuing it and America reasserting its dominant role when it comes to ocean metals. Well, I bought you a gift today as well.
Oh, I love gifts.
Yeah? Well, this is a very precious polymetallic nodule. And we had them made about 5 million years old, this one.
And let's see, I got one other story for y'all. How's your day going, bro? Oh, here we go. This is a good one. This is Sabine Hassenfeld. She's always humorous. Let's get her on full screen here.
Yes, that's almost certainly nonsense. But it seems that there are indeed people who believe they've seen something for which interdimensional beings is the best way to describe it. And I think it's dangerous to dismiss everything as nonsense that doesn't fit one's pre-existing beliefs. Or at least I think I should explain why I think it's nonsense before dismissing it. So let's have a look. The recent episode was an interview of the American politician and Air Force veteran Anna Luna on Joe Rogan's podcast.
So when you say that it operates outside our understanding of physics, what specifically are you saying? Like what happened?
To I guess break it down in simple terms is that I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have,
energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have.
She isn't the first to make such claims. In the past years, we have heard similar statements about interdimensional beings from other people in some Senate hearings.
You have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential. Could you expound on that?
In terms of multidimensionality, that kind of thing, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics. And that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross, literally, as far as I understand, but there's probably guys with PhDs that we could probably argue about that.
My interpretation is that they mean a combination of two things. They've seen unidentified objects in various different shapes and configurations that seem to accelerate extremely quickly, faster than our current technology allows, and indeed at an acceleration that, if we could pull it off, will crush humans. And the second thing that worries them is that the objects seem to be reactive and probably have intelligent pilots.
If you look at, for example, instantaneous acceleration, which was one of the observables of the program that I belong to, ATIP, The human body can withstand about 9 G forces for a short period of time before you suffer negative biological consequences, blackouts and ultimately redouts and even death. Comparison, our best technology, the F-16, which is this older platform, but one of our most highly maneuverable aircraft, manned aircraft, made by General Dynamics, can perform about 17 or 18 G forces before you start having structural failure, meaning that the airframe begins to disintegrate while you're flying. The vehicles we're talking about are performing in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
Mr. Elizondo, in regards to these aircraft being piloted by whatever they might be, non-human biologics, would you agree that it's likely that they are being piloted by some mind-body connection?
Ma'am, I think it is safe to presume here that they are being intelligently controlled because some cases seem to anticipate our maneuvers, and in other cases they seem to I came across an email where the word "stalked" was used in a very secure email between Navy officers discussing their ships being pursued by a UAP.
And then we have some grainy footage of weird things that gives you an impression of what they're probably talking about. Things that appear on screen, move around, and suddenly disappear. So what might they mean by interdimensional? First of all, it implies that there are more dimensions than those that we already know of, 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And second, that presumably these beings can somehow move into these additional dimensions and back out, which we can't, at least not when sober. Interdimensional space travel is basically the idea of hyperdrives. That's opposed to warp drives or wormholes, which don't require additional dimensions and are more easily compatible with the physics that we know and like. Yes, that's all science fiction, but these fictional technologies are based on scientific ideas. Indeed, scientists have long speculated that additional dimensions of space exist, and you probably know that string theory requires a whopping 10 of dimensions in total, though we don't experience most of them in daily life because they're supposedly rolled up to small radii. But string theory isn't the only theory that posits extra dimensions of some sort. Eric Weinstein's geometric unity, for example, also has additional dimensions, and he seems to believe that they might come in useful for space travel. Physicists also have various other theories with additional dimensions of space, such as the DGP brain model. Some have additional dimensions of time, and I have a theory according to which my hair has extra dimensions. But there is no evidence any of these additional dimensions exist. Even if they did exist, we don't know of any way that objects composed of normal matter, like us, could travel in them. And even if we could, at least in the theories that I know of, that wouldn't allow us to move any faster than in our familiar 3 dimensions of space, because these additional dimensions still have a speed of light limit, and inertia still exists there. What I'm saying is that simply positing the existence of other dimensions of space doesn't explain anything. I also don't see why it's even necessary. Why talk about interdimensional beings if all you want to explain is, in the best case, an advanced propulsion technology, or more likely, some sort of optical illusion? This makes me think, unfortunately, that this talk of interdimensional beings is some mix of superstition and a desire for attention. I really try to be open-minded about this sort of thing, and I really, really want there to be aliens visiting our planet, but I have a hard time believing any of this. Maybe one day interdimensional beings will visit us, but then they see the US Congress and immediately leave again. If you ever get the feeling that the news is more about storytelling than facts, Ground News is worth a look. Ground News is a news platform for people who value facts. They collect and summarize news.
She is hilarious, in my opinion. So what did y'all think about that? What y'all think about that? Other dimensional creatures. There is 4th dimensional space, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, supposedly proven by science. So obviously it's possible that things could be there. And obviously, we wouldn't know about them because it's not in our dimension of understanding. Finally cleaned my prototype. It only took 40 minutes to whole live stream. So anything y'all want to talk about in particular? I do have, let's see, do I have one more video? Yeah, sure, why not? It's a little shorty. It's on Ellis Island. Everyone bitches about getting rid of illegal aliens. We seem to forget history. So this is a little history lesson.
Ellis Island. For decades, it was the main gateway for immigrants coming to the United States. But after a dramatic shift, Ellis Island became a place where more immigrants were pushed out than allowed in. From 1892 to 1924, 12 million immigrants were processed through Ellis Island on their way to finding new lives in America.
Remember that number,
Southern
12
and Eastern
million.
Europe. But in the wake of World War I, America became less welcoming to potential immigrants as fears of foreign anarchists and communism spread. Immigration quotas were put in place for the entire Eastern Hemisphere, and Ellis Island was forced to adapt. The island became a detention center where immigrants scheduled for deportation were held before being sent off. Today, Ellis Island exists as a museum that presents America's entire immigration story, from its open arms, closed doors, and
to the closed doors and beyond. Because pandas are not that important to have historical drawings of, that, or else they would have. Or maybe if you go to Australia, they are native there. So just like I guess we show, you know, what's native here, they'd show what's native to their country. So maybe Australia would be the place to look for as far as that goes. Finding out more about pictures of pandas, I guess. Or, since I ran my mouth long enough, just for you, I wanted to make you feel at home. There's a whole bunch of baby pandas for you there, brother. And I'm sure there's lots of studies on pandas in Australia. You'd have to have them, just like we have studies of the native creatures on this continent. They've got studies of native creatures on their little island continent. And I'm sure they've got lots of documented evidence and scientific facts about pandas. Kind of like the drop bear. I think the drop bear is a cousin of the panda. You guys know about the drop bear? Most Aussies know about it. Aussies being Australians. It's a hidden, they don't like talking about it because it scares away tourists. Yeah, but they're in Australia. We don't get honest information out of China. See, it says here, while pandas once had a much wider range in Asia, including parts of Vietnam, Myanmar, and activities like deforestation have confined them to the current mountain. So yes, you are correct, Mo. They are from China right now, but before deforestation started, they were also in Malaysia and Vietnam and parts of Indonesia. So accurate, yes, but there's reasons for that accuracy being man caused that. Naturally, they're not from just China, but due to, you know, people wanting to burn down forests to create farmland, it pushed the pandas out of Vietnam and Thailand and that area into a higher mountainous area of China where they are right now. So right and wrong. Well, actually, no, wrong. They're not from China alone. They're from China, Vietnam, and Thailand. It's just Thailand and Vietnam killed off their habitat. So now they're only located in China is a more accurate statement. But yes, you're right. For lack of accuracy, you're right. I like particulars and accuracy, though. Sorry, bro. Yeah, solar, very, very bad. Especially in a global warming, quote unquote, global warming setting where you'll have more hailstorms. I prefer to hydrogen or nuclear, ideally. But minus that, I'd like it if the solar companies and the larger energy companies wouldn't suppress information on the small household wind generators that are non-evasive, don't hurt animals, don't make a lot of sound, and yet can give you about 3,000 watts an hour under 3 to 5 mile an hour wind, and every house could have one and would have no need for energy companies. Energy companies know this, so they lobby against you having them. Kind of sick how that works. Major companies forcing us to use them when there's better, cheaper alternatives out there that gets around you having to pay them. So they take your money that they took from you and use it against you to make you pay them more money. Well, they'll have to recover the silver out of them. And there's a new technology of solar panel coming out, and this weather anomalies will probably help bring that about. I saw it was Nova Now with Alan Alda, probably 15 years ago, and it was deleted. They removed that video of Nova Now with Alan Alda on it that specifically went to Northern California, where two older man and a woman married, billionaires, no kids, built a 1.5 mile long factory to build a new type of solar panel, and it showed Alan Alda drilling holes in this solar panel. He drilled 10 of them, and it was hooked up to an electro thing, and no loss in power. And then he went over to a traditional solar panel, drilled one hole in it, and lost 90% of its power. That technology has been around and available to us for over 10, close to 15 years, and someone's not allowing it to be turned out. Because if that technology was turned out, every solar company out there would go out of business for the new solar panels that basically indestructible. You can use them as clothing too, like jackets, windbreakers, have a solar powered windbreaker. I saw the whole thing. It was on Alan Alda Science, Nova Science Now or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Everything's pre-planned. People don't believe it, but it is. That's why I kept running for presidency. I knew trades and tariffs, and I even said it like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, that new trade agreements and treaties would be the new charts. And everyone's like, yeah, whatever. You don't want to talk about it. And then 6 months later, oh, new trade agreements coming around, new treaties coming around. Now we're getting new treaties and trade agreements with everyone because of tariffs. Yep, I was right on that one too. This one though, with the solar, I know we have it. I know the technology's there. I know the government has it. The government owns it. They're supposed to turn it over to us according to the will left by those two entrepreneurial billionaires that died with no kids, who built the stuff and came up with that technological use for the solar in that format that they came up with it in. So I don't know why the government's restraining that information from us or that technology from us, but it needs to come to us, because if it does, it will change everything. Solar will be, man, everything will change. Everything will change. And then we still have that $700 trillion asteroid that next year we're going to be landing Beacon on. Got to see what happens to that, because we'll own it. And if we have a digital economy, we'll be able to digitize all that wealth and National debt will be nothing. But we got to see how that turns out. Lots of changes coming. Next year is going to be a good year, though, with Korea's $150 billion that they're going to start funneling into our shipbuilding industry. That means that we can retrofit all of our ports that I told you about 6 to 9 months ago, where we were going to retrofit all of our ports and modernize them and start building ships again. I told you to get the TWIC card. I'm reiterating that. Get your TWIC card, start learning these trades, or get invested in some building trade that's going to revamp these ports. Find out what ports are getting revamped. There's a lot of money to be made. Government's foretelling where to invest. It would be a good thing to listen to the government. When the government makes contracts, the government had a contract with Algo, XLM, and Ethiopia had a contract with ADA like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I told people about it. Now they're all part of the ISO 222. Interesting, huh? If you guys do your research, you'll find out the evolution of economics. And you might not like what you see, but you'll see things. And then you'll see how they come about, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't see it that way. And you make strategic moves. I mean, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. So get on board. Make money. And let me do a quick Google search. I'm trying to get some information here. Here we go. Okay, 4217. Okay, I keep telling you guys about ISO 222, right? Well, look up ISO, what was that number again? 4217. ISO 4217. Look up that one. ISO 2417 is the US dollar. Holla. So when people start talking about ISOs, there's significance to it. It might not have any meaning to you guys. Oh, what's ISO? Who cares? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the OCC has no meaning to you either. You might want to find out what the OCC is. As soon as you find out what that is, start researching what they do. They'll tell you exactly where your economy or money is going. That's the Office of Com Controllers or something like that. Anything to do with money, that little obscure agency, that three-letter agency, they're the ones you got to pay attention to. Office of Currency Control, that's what it is. Yeah, no one's probably ever heard of that one, huh? You start looking into things, man. ISO 2417, I think it was 2417, or did I get that fucking backwards? It was 42. My bad. 4217. 4217. Matter of fact, let me get rid of this one. That's misinformation. That one is the US dollar. ISO 4217 is the US dollar. ISO 222, the new dollar. I know you hate it. I hate bringing facts to you. Let me check, make sure that Google or YouTube hasn't cut my feed yet. But that right there is it, people. We had an ISO back in 1971. ISO 4217 created the dollar that we are using right now. 54 years later, the ISO numbers are a lot higher. ISO 222, the new dollars that we're going to use for a little bit. It always changes. It's always changing. Yeah, you can't deny what's going on by your own personal beliefs. You have to accept what the hell is going on and wrap your personal beliefs around it, make money, and fucking buy an island so you can have your personal life away from the reality of how we run the government here in this world. They give foretellers of it, and then they throw out technologies and misinformation, disinformation, and lots of Google stuff and cool new programs and movies to get you distracted and not thinking about it. Then they let you make a lot of money for a little while they set a trap for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. No one thinks that long. That's why we're all poor, except for the real rich people who we keep talking about, the Rothschilds, the Woolworths, the Fords, the Rockefellers. Yeah, they think longer than 40 years. So anyhow, you fall in these traps because we don't have the foresight that these people who know what's going on do, and we keep crying, why do we keep getting trapped in these poor little blah, blah, blah? Okay, I'm trying to help you out, people. Look into the OCC. I know it sucks. You don't want to do it. I mean, one of the most financially beneficial things you can do is learn about that institution. Also learn about what ISOs are. Because your beliefs, no matter who the hell, Rick Rule can tell you some bullshit on YouTube. If it doesn't match up with what the government's going to do, he's talking out his booty hole. You can find out the facts if you just research a little bit instead of listening to other people's opinions, uninformed as they might be or as informed as they might be. I don't know. All I know is ISO 222 is the way the government's going. And since we're relying on the government for everything, I'm thinking that's pretty much the way it's going to go. There will be changes. We have politicians. It makes better change if you vote or if you actually get politically active yourself and get into office locally. We can make changes. But until anyone does that, it is what it is because we're doing nothing to change it. How do you change it? You get involved. You don't want to get involved? Learn what the future is going to be and position yourself properly. I don't want to be a politician, so I'm learning what they're going to do. And I'm following suit. I know a guy who's a multimillionaire now off of this strategy. Back in 96, I met him when I first moved out here. He was my second cousin's friend, good friend. He told me that the government had just put out 10 years earlier a future forecast of what they saw. And they saw at the turn of the millennium a great need for use store them. So he bought 5 or 6 of them. And when I met him, he said they hadn't paid off yet. He was still, he was treading water. He was still making a little money, but he wasn't being as rich as he thought he would. And then 5 years later, in like 2004, 2005, he started making money. And to this day, he's making crap loads of money, all off of a report he read that the government puts out of a future forecast of the direction that they see America going. He read it. He put his money where the government's mouth is. He's now a multimillionaire. Hot damn, is that how easy it is? Yes, that's how easy it is. You don't have to do stocks. You don't have to do PMs. There are so many ways to make money out there. You just have to be informed of what they are to take advantage of them. Looking at what the government wants to happen, you will have within a 10-year forecast of what will happen. It won't be exactly the way they want it, but it'll be close enough to where you can make money off of that information. The information I'm talking about right now, the OCC and the ISO. Learn about them. That'll make you money into the future. Also, give you knowledge. But I can tell not too many people want to wake up, so I'll quit talking about this. And I'll end the stream since it's been about an hour. And I hope that someone gets some enlightenment off of this. And you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.